Would you like to have a show, talk about your business, or express your opinion on America's Web Radio? Just email gm at americaswebradio.com and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Roger B. You're listening to Locked and Loaded on America's Web Radio. We're going to talk about some politics today. We're going to talk about some Supreme Court rulings that may come down that could change the way things happen. And we're going to talk about the gun control bills that the Democrats are eyeing to push through as early as next week. But first, I want to go to Uruguay.
Uruguay.
Uruguay? How do you say that? Is that Central America? South America? Where is that?
Central America.
Central America.
South America.
Well, this
South
was
America.
great because,
America.
This was a video, and I watched the video, and it's pretty short, but it shows there's an ice cream parlor, and this guy and his son are enjoying an ice cream cone, having a good time with this ice cream. Now, it is 11 o'clock at night, but, apparently they have a nightlife in Uruguay.
I just had a thought, Roger, but I'm not going to take us down memory lane of what we did to a certain friend at a certain restaurant on the way to Bike Week
with ice cream.
With ice cream.
Oh yes, let's not go there.
Okay,
this
is a family show.
This is a family show. So he's sitting there having ice cream with his son apparently, and they're sitting there eating their ice cream, and these two men start walking toward the ice cream parlor, and one pulls a pistol as he gets to the door. Now the man, who just happens to be an off-duty police officer, pulls out his weapon, fires 2 shots at the one suspect, and fires at the other suspect as he's turning and running away, trying to pull his gun out. And he does this all without dropping his ice cream cone.
Man, now that is gun control and ice cream control.
Generally, if you got something in your hand and you need a self-defense, you drop whatever it is you have in your hand, and you use both hands on your weapon. This guy managed to deter both the armed robbers with his handgun, firing shots, and not dropping his ice cream cone.
He wanted to properly demonstrate gun control and ice cream control.
That's
Roger,
right.
Would you, let's be honest, would you drop an ice cream cone?
Not unless it was a flavor I really didn't like. But any decent flavor, no, you don't drop an ice cream cone.
And how many flavors of ice cream do you not like?
Maybe, I didn't like the sardine broccoli I tried.
Okay.
That was bad.
Why on earth did you try that?
Anything with chocolate in it, though, I'm in, yeah. But, so this guy held on to his rocky road, and he kept going. It's a spectacular video if you get a chance. It's
That's
awesome. Man
awesome.
shoots 2 armed robbers, doesn't even drop his ice cream cone. It's awesome. So that's something I'm gonna have to watch a few more times because that's the kind of training I need.
Hey, Uruguay doesn't have the best economy, so he probably had to save up for a week to buy the ice cream.
Maybe, and these guys decided they were just gonna. I wonder if they were gonna steal money or ice cream.
Or ice cream. They wanted that ice cream cone.
Maybe they just didn't have enough of the cone, so they were just gonna go in and steal it.
Steal it.
Feel bad for those guys.
Man, hey,
getting shot for trying to get ice cream.
There's your socialism. You can't even have ice cream.
I know, it's nuts. But more importantly, in the United States, we're coming down. There's going to be a court case heard by the Supreme Court to decide whether or not police can enter a home to seize guns without a warrant. Now, generally, your home is protected by the Fourth Amendment against warrantless searches.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you have the Fourth Amendment. There's no way they can.
Oh, but there are exigent circumstances that can allow a police officer to enter a home without a warrant.
If you're shooting at him.
No. What if somebody's shooting at somebody else? Then he can still go in and try and prevent it. If someone's about to stab somebody,
right.
He can run in. And
if he makes the yes, okay.
Or if he sees somebody collapsed on the floor shaking, he can.
Right, if there's
reasonable.
Absolutely. It's got to be reasonable, though. It's got to be, I can see them shooting each other, or I can see
or he sees a scuffle and he sees a weapon, he can break in and try and break it up.
Or I see that person who's obviously had a heart attack. And
or if he sees somebody collapse down in the middle of the floor, he can break in. And that's, they call that exigent circumstance. But there's also an allowance that says a community caretaking exception. Anything with community in it scares me most of the time.
Oh, yeah. When you see that word, you might as well substitute it for socialism.
Yeah. Well, there was a place where a police officer took a gun out of a trunk of an impounded vehicle without first obtaining a warrant. But what they determined is that there were thieves breaking into the impoundment yard and stealing stuff out of impounded cars. So he thought for the safety of the community, he would remove the property from the car to prevent it from being stolen.
Yeah, that's a stretch to me.
It's a stretch a little bit.
Stretch.
But if they had a precedent set that people were stealing stuff, they were breaking in and stealing impounded cars. So he felt like it was, and it seemed like it was okay. It didn't really result in anything. I guess they got the weapon back to the person. There was no lawsuit filed or anything like that. But the case that started this was, let's see if I can find this lady's name. I don't know if I got Caligula, something like that. I don't know. No.
Caligula.
No.
Is she an actress?
Caniglia.
Oh.
Italian. Okay.
Yeah.
So apparently, let's see. Mr. Caniglia was arguing with his wife and melodramatically put an unloaded gun on the table and said, "Shoot me now and get it over with."
Hey, be careful what you ask for.
No, he didn't point it at her or threaten her in any way.
Right.
He just gave her, he said, Here. I'm ready to take the poison.
Wow.
You ever heard that story? I'll tell it real quick. This guy goes to a psychiatrist, says, "Wife, I think she's trying to poison me. I don't know. I think she's trying to put poison in all my food." "Oh, well, can you get her to come in?" "Sure." So he gets his wife to come in, and the psychiatrist spends 2 hours with her, talking to her. And she leaves, and the husband comes back in, and he goes, "Well, Doc, what do you think?" He goes, "Take the poison."
Take the poison.
So this guy was ready to take the poison. Just shoot me and get it over with. I'm done.
Wow.
So apparently she called the non-emergency number for 911. The police arrived shortly after. The police disagreed about whether Mr. Caniglia was acting normal or agitated, but they convinced him to take an ambulance ride to the local hospital for evaluation. They did not accompany him. So apparently he wasn't that much of a danger.
Right.
They didn't need police escort. They sent him in the ambulance by himself. So apparently he was somewhat coherent. I'm sure, depending on the officers that answered, they would understand the frustration by throwing a gun at your wife and say, "Just shoot me and get it over with." I find this very comical.
I think that's funny.
But on the way to the hospital, Mrs. Caniglia told the police that her husband kept 2 handguns in the home, and the police decided to search his home for guns without obtaining a warrant. Now, they're saying Mrs. Caniglia's consent to have the police search the home was legally negated because the police untruthfully told her that her husband had consented to the seizure of any guns. See, so if they hadn't told her that and just asked her for permission, it might have been okay.
Yeah.
But because they told her that he already agreed to it, they're kind of like, this could be a little shady. That's intimidating or whatever, misleading.
Yeah.
But anyway, so now it went to the
leading the witness.
First Circuit Court of Appeals. At its core, community caretaking doctrine is designed to give the police elbow room to take appropriate action when unforeseen circumstances present some transient hazard. And granted, the husband was already out of the house at this time. He never threatened anybody with the gun. Apparently, like I said, it wasn't even loaded.
Huh.
And he was just encouraging her to shoot him.
Maybe he just wanted to see if she would do it.
Maybe. See if she was trying to poison him. But this is an area that's, and they're saying without a warrant, though, they should not have been able to search the house. Now, from what I can see, if they asked her, because she was also in the home, it was her home as well.
Yeah, it's her home. Well, if she gave permission, but they can't mislead her, though.
Right. That was where they messed up. If they had just said, "Do you mind if we look around real quick and get these guns out of the house to keep you safe?" She probably would have said yes, and this case would never have happened.
Right.
But because they misled her, saying he agreed to the search, which apparently he did not.
He never did not do.
And now he's got to try and get his guns back, I guess, if he tests positive, okay for being sane or whatever.
Mentally acuity.
Yes.
So
this is going to go to the Supreme.
Look,
the Supreme Court's looking at this case to see if they want to hear it and decide whether or not this is something that's going to be available. And it just seems like this is an odd case because police can't just come in and say, "We want to search your house for guns because we want to."
Yeah, no,
they can't do that.
You can, and we can't allow it.
They were called to the house though to answer a call.
Well, they were called, but they also misled her. So you still can't. If you. It's the same thing if an officer sees you have a heart attack in your home and he busts in the home to save you, he then can't send you off in an ambulance and search your home.
Right, he didn't have a warrant to do anything beyond.
He cannot do anything beyond what the emergency entails, and so I feel the same way. I feel that this should be open and shut case.
Now, since you're here, we're going to get into politics first.
Woo!
There's what's her name, Boebert. I don't know her first name. Lauren Boebert. She's a representative, and apparently she was on a Zoom call.
Oh gosh,
with some people in the Congress. She's let's say Lauren Boebert of Colorado.
Well,
She was on a Zoom call, and in the background, she clearly has 2 AR-15s and a pistol, and it looks like a shotgun sitting there in her background. They look deliberately placed because they are crossed over, the shotgun on the second shelf, the pistol leaned up nicely so it shows.
hey, all right. Good for her.
So she's obviously showing, I'm a Second Amendment proponent,
Right,
and
I
here I am
support
on
the
this
Second
Zoom
Amendment.
meeting with these Congress people.
And let me guess, the Democrats were triggered.
Horrified, I believe was the word.
Because-
Oh no, the horror.
Because one of those guns might have got up itself and somehow fired through the Zoom call.
That's right.
Oh,
you
yeah,
cannot be
yeah.
shot through the internet. Let me
No,
just tell you
you
this.
can't. Yeah, let's go ahead, Roger. Let's do a good public service announcement to the Democrats out there right now. You cannot be shot through the internet.
That's right. As far as I know,
As far as we know.
virtual bullets do not hurt.
Do not hurt.
Kids play these games all the time.
You know-
They shoot each other nonstop with these
Right.
all these video games. Nobody has ever died from
And
that.
no one's ever died from a virtual bullet yet. I get emojis all the time. I have not been hurt yet by an emoji axe.
That's right.
Or an
Or
emoji
even-
fire.
Only your feelings get hurt.
Yeah, you're feeling.
But you know what?
You know how I
Tough
feel about
noogies.
that. Exactly. Maybe you deserve to have your feelings
But
hurt.
apparently, I mean, just that the idea that a pro-gun member of Congress might have firearms is just so terrible.
Oh,
Okay.
terrible. They're actually upholding and practicing the Constitution. Oh gosh.
Now, the Democratic representative, Katie Porter, goes, I always thought my dirty dishes piled up and accumulating bacteria were the most dangerous thing in the Zoom background.
Hey, you know her dirty dishes are more dangerous
They
than
are.
my
But granted, bacteria do not travel through an internet call either.
either.
This is
true.
dangerous. I don't know
This
where
is
they're
true.
getting
One-
the idea. What do they consider dangerous?
I know. This
They're
is-
triggered by dirty
they're
dishes now?
triggered by dishes, and are they triggered by emojis? Because I've gotten emojis of a virus.
That's right. Oh my God. Do I have
mean,
COVID
ooh,
now?
My goodness, I
Do
might
I have to go get a test?
Do I have to get a test?
Can I get a virtual test?
Yes. Yes, if I'm going to virtually be afraid of a virtual emoji, then I'll submit to a virtual test.
Now she was in her home. It wasn't like she was in her congressional office with all these guns laying around inside her
Right.
office. She was in her home on a Zoom call with other congressional members, and this lady was triggered. I tell you how they use the word triggered because it has to do with guns.
If
It's
they
like,
hate
hey,
if they hate guns so much, why do they use the
Don't use a term that has to do with guns,
Yeah,
yes.
the terms. Crazy.
But this is just it's just here we go again. First and this week, of course, with the whole Mr. Potato Head scandal.
Oh.
It's not like the Mr. Potato Head kit comes with male parts or female parts.
Exactly.
He has a mustache. I'm not,
And you can take it off of him. And he had a wife. You could got Mrs. Potato Head
That's
too.
right. And they want to eliminate her too.
Well, they want.
I complimented somebody on their mustache the other day, and she was pissed.
She was mad. Don't wear it if you're going to get mad.
That's right. I mean, but
know-
other than a mustache, how do you know it's a Mr. Potato Head?
I mean, it's again. I talked about this earlier, Roger.
Oh, did you? Okay.
They think not so much the potato heads, but I talked about the whole gender thing and science. Democrats love to tell us that we should follow the science, unless the science doesn't fit their narrative. Because, Roger, you're a guy who just happens to know how to sequence DNA.
I do.
You tell me.
You can determine whether somebody is male or female.
There's
yes.
male or there's
And
female.
there is a very small percentage of people who have both equipment, but that's like
But it's-
0.02% of the population. It's
Yeah.
a tiny amount. And they've been
Right.
getting along for the last 100 years or more with managing to make things work,
absolutely.
and they probably don't want attention drawn to their situation.
Exactly. And some of them have movie careers.
Yes, they probably do. They really?
Well,
is that known? They could. We don't know.
They could.
There are a lot
It
of
might
male,
be a certain industry.
There are a lot of male actors out there who act like female body parts.
Yes, there are.
The kitty cats.
Hollywood is full of male actors with.
They have
who
big
think
mouths,
they
though.
have female body parts. Oh, go Hollywood!
They call that a mangina.
There you go.
there you go, yes.
From Mr. Producer over there, mangina. Yep. There's a lot of
But
manginas in
she
Hollywood.
She apparently said, I'm not rolling over for this. So you can't handle the appearance of firearms in a country that has the Second Amendment. You
Yeah.
should not be
Yep.
legally allowed to serve your country.
You shouldn't. The people who put that person into office should take them out of office. Because you cannot. I mean, the one country that a document says you've got a God-given right.
Well, here's the author's final
unbelievable.
line on this one of this article. He goes, here's a pro tip for those offended by her background. Get over it. The guns on the screen can't hurt you. Stop being a whiny little baby and get the hell over it.
Are you sure he said baby?
That's what it says here.
No, okay,
I mean,
I'm just saying because I would have probably said something different.
Yeah, I was thinking the female dog version. But anyway, I didn't want to go there.
No, we're not going to say that on the radio.
We're allowed to say that.
This is a family show. We're nice.
We got to take a quick break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. I am Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and you're listening to America's Web Radio.
If you live to serve,
Boy, the
and
daily
make
cases
an
have
even
fallen
bigger
below
difference,
50,000.
Consider joining the U.S. Army. With training in fields like medical care, linguistics, and engineering, an Army career can amplify your efforts with humanitarian opportunities all over the world. Plus, you'll receive competitive pay and incredible benefits, so you'll be taken care of, too. Learn more at GoArmy.com.
Hey guys, it's Minister Frankie with Shine His Light Ministries. It's getting cold outside and winter is coming. It's time to shine a little light on our friends on the street. We're collecting blankets and coats for the homeless all winter long. Please donate by going to our website at www.shinehislightministry.com or text 770-655-8055.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Heads.
Yeah, all you potato heads out there.
I am Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and we're back with more.
Yeah, I had to play with Mr. Rock and Mrs. Rock because, there were times when my dad said, I'm not buying you a freaking potato head.
I'm not buying you a plastic potato.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a potato right here that your mom was going to cook. Go play with this.
Here's a potato and a pen. Make your own, Miss Potato Head.
In fact, I am pretty sure there was a time in my childhood when I was given a potato, some toothpicks, and a marker.
It said, here, Mr. Potato Head.
There you go.
20 cents at the supermarket instead of $6, yes.
Yep, I'm pretty sure that, Roger, you and I both experienced that.
Go outside and play. With what? There's there's sticks out there. Go play with sticks.
That is, folks, we are not making this up.
Kids today have no idea.
They have, your kids have no idea today because there were plenty of times when our parents absolutely said, hey, there's a stick out there, there's a tree, there's some dirt, go play. Go throw a rock. My parents actually said, go outside and throw a rock.
See how far you can throw the rock.
See?
And don't come back in for at least an hour.
Hey, don't come back. Hell, don't come back until this starts to get dark.
When the street light comes on, you better be back home.
And you better be home.
That's right.
Oh, boy, the days.
So now, though, with all the computers out there now, these kids are just hooked on all this computer stuff. But let me ask you this. Would you buy a gun that had a computer built in that would allow or not allow you to shoot based on what it saw?
Nope. Nope. Mm-mm.
Well, there's a company that's working on technology that's going to allow the gun to decide whether or not you should be able to fire it or not.
So this gun is going to have to determine, are you black? Are you brown? Are you yellow? Because
Or are you a hostage? Are you an enemy combatant? Are you
Oh, no.
What's your status?
They'll make it do color first.
Oh,
then
maybe.
it will decide on
Now,
whether
granted,
it was.
This is, they want to equip smart guns with ethical artificial intelligence.
See? Ethical artificial intelligence. Let me translate that to you. Let me translate. That means a politically correct smart guns is what they're looking for.
Yeah, they may have a politically correct version. That would be funny.
Goodness.
But and the thing is, they're talking about how would you do this? I understand if you have, identification on yourself so no one else can fire your gun. That's one step. They've been working on that for years.
Right.
They've had that in the movies.
Ever since Judge Dredd.
Well, yeah, they've had that in the movies forever. Yeah. The identifying, or you have a glove or ring or some sort of chip put in your hand,
matches your gun.
So only you can fire the weapon. Mm-hmm. Which that they're still working on that technology. The original one could be disabled with a couple of magnets.
Right.
Now, granted, in the middle of a fight, you wouldn't have a couple of magnets handy just to throw on the gun while you're grabbing it from somebody. And it was only a .22 also, so you probably wouldn't carry it anyway.
Right.
But here they're trying to get these computers to decide to render it useless, even if an authorized user is trying to use it against something it doesn't feel is a situation that requires a gun. Now, could you imagine a hostage situation and you're sitting there waiting and all of a sudden the hostage taker moves and your gun doesn't fire because it still sees the hostage in the picture?
Sees the hostage.
And you're going, the bad guy just got away because I couldn't shoot him because the hostage was standing too close. I mean, that's just one situation I thought of where you'd want your gun to fire when you wanted it to fire.
Exactly. Yeah,
Actually, there's no situation where I wouldn't want my gun to fire when I would want
always
to
want my gun to fire. Part of true gun safety is when you make the decision to fire, you make the decision to fire.
Right. And remember, there's a lawyer attached to every bullet you shoot.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it just seems odd that they can even pretend. I mean, now, granted, this is probably generations away from being at all feasible. Because, I mean, it's just so weird how it would know whether somebody was killing bad guys, good guys. If they didn't? What if an officer saw a gun and the AI didn't see it, and the officer has to wait till the guy points the gun at him before he can shoot?
Yeah. Well,
he sees the gun come up from behind his back. The AI doesn't see it, and his gun is locked. He's going, son of a gun! I can't shoot this thing. But if it works that well, I think we should start right away with Joe Biden's Secret Service.
Right. Yeah. If this is the kind of crap that politicians are going to push, then like I've said before, you first. So you don't want me to fly? You first. You don't want me to drive a gas car? You first.
Now, what if the AI sees a knife but doesn't think that's as dangerous, so he's not going to allow somebody to shoot?
It doesn't justify a capital punishment or that kind of reaction.
Or what if it sees the gun or sees a gun and thinks it's a cell phone and doesn't allow it to fire?
What if it sees a cell phone and thinks it's a gun?
Then you can shoot the guy with the cell phone. Well, then the human intervention would come in. But this is what they're talking about, possibly in the future. So I'm just warning you guys. But unfortunately, there are over 400 million dumb guns out there that work every time you pull the trigger.
Every time you pull the trigger, yeah, exactly.
So I doubt they're going to be able to replace all the dumb guns that quickly. I mean, 400 million. There's more guns than there are people in this country.
You're going to make the smart smart gun, then I want the smart bullet that can go around a corner.
Yeah, and just you laze somebody,
laser somebody,
get their DNA identification tag, fire the bullet, have it hit just that one person.
Just have it hit that one person, even if it has to go in and around and up and down.
As long as it doesn't have to go through anybody else, we're good.
Right, we're good.
But the researchers are saying this is going to be the wave of the future. We're going to have smart guns, blah blah blah. So far, they can't even get a gun that is reliable for
When
users.
Are we going to have smart voters?
Or smart people? What did they say? What was that movie, Men in Black? He goes, a person can be smart. People are dumb and panicky. I mean, did you see the panic this week over a plastic potato? Oh, my God. And then there's Dr. Seuss. They're ranting on him about something. I haven't read that one yet.
They've canceled him. Dr. Seuss is canceled, and they will now not be publishing Dr. Seuss books.
But I thought green eggs and ham, that would be so green. That would go. AOC would be backing the green eggs and ham.
You would think they would like it, but apparently, for some reason, eggs and ham being green is racist.
Right. Well,
I don't
okay.
know why.
Imagine this. You have a glass. It is half filled with fluid. The optimist says it's half full. The pessimist says it's half empty. The liberal says, it's racist.
How dare you? Water's white.
It's only half full. It's got to be racist. If it were not racist, it'd be full or empty, but it can't be both.
Or empty, but it can't be both.
Yeah, so apparently
racist.
Half filled with fluid is racist, according to liberals' eyes. Not for real, but.
Hey, look, you know what? You can't put anything past these socialist, liberal, Marxist people.
Crazy people. But that's just something to look forward to in the future. Maybe your local gun store soon will have an AI gun, little camera built in, trying to determine whether or not you're allowed to shoot it.
You're allowed to shoot it. I'd
love to see the first. I'd love to play with the first version of these. Now, what if you went to the range and had targets with hostages on them or bad guys? If they didn't, or just a silhouette target, would it allow it to shoot at a blank silhouette?
Apparently, you're not going to be able to shoot unless you've got some type of disable feature.
Something, yeah, turn it off.
So, but then if they come out with that, they're never going to want you to be able to turn it off.
No one's going to be able to. Yeah, no one's going to be able to.
They don't want you to.
They won't leave it turned on. That's for sure.
But
that'll be nuts.
Yeah. Crazy.
Oh, Virginia had a couple of weeks ago. I talked about Virginia was trying to ban not just ghost guns, like 80% lowers, 80% frames. They were trying to ban any piece of plastic or metal that could potentially be turned into a gun. So if you had a block of plastic, any block of solid plastic, or metal or whatever, it could be turned into a gun. We're going to ban that.
So we're going to ban 3D machines?
Well, they'd love to, I'm sure. Oh, my God.
Man.
I was at a gun show not too long ago, and they had a 3D printer that could 3D print a Glock frame and an AR-15 receiver.
Awesome.
And it was
I
like,
love
it wasn't that expensive. The machine with the programming was like $350.
Wow.
I should have bought one when I saw it.
Ooh, yep.
That would have been cool. But I'm waiting for them to get the technology better. Hopefully it'll get better, and I'll buy one before they ban it completely.
Yeah, because it is going to get better, and they are going to come after them. I mean, they're going to ban that. They're going to
so.
ban plastic. They're going to.
How are they going to, but there are people with milling machines and drill presses who are going to be able to make stuff whenever they want. You're not going to be able to stop it, and technology is going to advance faster than the legal idiots.
Roger, they're going to do a buyback program, don't you know?
Oh, buy back my 3D printer.
We're going to buy back the 3D printer. We're going to buy back the milling machine. We're going to buy back.
I think they're going to try and limit the software. That's where they're going to try and get you. So you're going to have to design
they'll
your
limit
own
it
software.
or tax it. They'll do something, but maybe you're a coder. Biden says you need to go get a coding job.
Hey.
Well, all right. I'm going to learn to code my 3D machine.
They did that. The guy who built the first homemade plastic gun, he released the information online for free.
And what did they do to him?
They tried to ban it from being distributed.
Absolutely. He was just doing what the good Democrats told him to do. You go get yourself a coding job.
That's right. And a 3D printer.
And a 3D printer.
And don't be a capitalist and charge for that.
Yeah,
Just
right.
give it away for free.
Hey.
Everybody should have access to that information. I agree completely.
I agree 100% in that case.
He gave it away, and they were in an uproar. They were falling apart at the seams.
They lost their ever-loving minds.
And I think that stuff's still out there. There's still, once it's on the internet, there's no stopping it.
Yeah, there's no stopping.
Because it'll be released 1,000 times over every day by somebody who says, "Oh, you need this here? Let me send that to you."
Exactly.
Boom.
And somebody will have a screenshot, and they can
They'll
send
download it, and they'll have copies,
always,
and they'll send it to
absolutely.
everybody. They'll send it to all their devices, so they'll have extra copies. Yeah, once it's on the internet, it's not like it's in a book and they can pull it off the shelves.
Right. They can't just
internet-
stop publishing like they're stopping Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
The internet's the internet. It's out there.
It's like they stopped the poor man's James Bond series from being published.
It's amazing.
But yet, there are
Canceled.
guys who have got copies, and they started republishing these small runs, so they're bringing it back out again.
I got to go out and get I've got some Dr. Seuss books from childhood. Who
know.
knew they were going to become so
I
valuable?
wonder if they're going to just become super valuable. All the Goodwills are going to start charging $10 a
Yeah,
book,
right.
$20 a book.
There got to be. I mean, they're going to go. The price is going to go up.
How can they
supply and
stop
demand.
them from publishing? Can they force them to stop publishing?
They probably can't stop publishing, but the moron, I've told you,
They can ask.
Corporations are in bed with the Democrats. Big business is in bed with Democrats, and they're going to fall right in line. And they're going to. These companies are offering to self-cancel.
Yeah.
So they're willing to the publishing company's willing to cancel this book because the Democrats are crying. You've got 1% of the people screaming.
But
Not
real
even.
quick, the good news is this Virginia bill was shut down, and it looks like it's dead for now.
Dead on arrival.
Yep.
Sweet.
So we'll be back in a couple minutes. I'm Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and you're listening to America's Web Radio.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Karuchak. Have you ever wondered what doctors talk about amongst themselves? If you do, join us on the Doctor's Lounge and hear the doctors' conversations amongst themselves. Join me and my co-host, Dr. Hal Schertz, every Thursday morning, 8 to 9 a.m.
If you live to serve and want to make an even bigger difference, consider joining the U.S. Army. With training in fields like medical care, linguistics, and engineering, an Army career can amplify your efforts with humanitarian opportunities all over the world. Plus, you'll receive competitive pay and incredible benefits, so you'll be taken care of, too. Learn more at GoArmy.com.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
Want to give your family or loved one the perfect gift? Then go online and check out the TornadoBodyDryer.com. I love mine and the warm heat air massage it gives me after my shower. The Tornado Body Dryer is super. You'll love it, and you'll love having one in your shower.
And we're back. I'm Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and we're back to talk about guns and gun stuff. And now I'm going to go, let's see, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, there's an Oklahoma bill pending to make the entire state a Second Amendment sanctuary. So imagine that. Yeah, I love seeing this stuff. Hands off to Oklahoma.
Well deserved, Oklahoma.
Now, granted, this bill is not as good as the Missouri one. The Missouri one we talked about, I think, last week or week before, gives the local law enforcement the ability to arrest federal officials who try and enforce illegal laws in their eyes. But still, this is a start. If enough states start backing the sanctuary city stuff, the feds are not going to be able to move in and do anything.
Right.
I know people say, "Oh, it's illegal. The federal law takes precedent. They're going to have to allow that."
Well,
what about immigration law?
Now, see, yeah,
marijuana.
There is a court case that needs to happen, and it needs to happen based on there are 18 enumerated powers specifically spelled out in the Constitution. The federal government has 18 well-specified powers. Other than that, it goes to the state. So states that are saying, hey, Mr. Federal Government guy, you're not going to come down here and bastardize the Constitution, they've got founding and they've got standing. So kudos to them.
Oh, yeah. The Constitution is clear. And the first 10 amendments say what the government cannot make laws
exactly
to do.
You're right.
And they don't care.
Led by the Second Amendment, which clearly says the government shall not infringe, shall not make law.
It's like a commandment.
You know what?
Thou shalt not.
That is a great way to put it, Roger. It is like a command.
The Bill of Rights is like that. The governmental 10 Commandments.
You know what, Roger? That is a great point, because if you look at the founding of this country, it was very much founded in Judeo-Christian beliefs.
Yeah, biblical
so
beliefs.
It is no surprise that the Declaration of Independence, if you look at the Bill of Rights,
there are 10 of them.
There's 10 of them.
Like commandments.
So, yes. Where do you think they got that idea?
But they don't listen. These guys will sit there and swear on a stack of Bibles that they're going to uphold and defend the Constitution.
And then destroy it.
Turn around the next day.
Reagan's 11th.
Thou shalt not
trust the government?
Be mad at a Republican or badmouth a Republican or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, he had a 10th one?
Yeah, he did. He had an 11th commandment. He sure did.
I thought the 11th commandment was thou shalt not get caught.
I love Reagan. Well, that depends on what circle you're running with.
Yeah, there is
the 11th commandment changes.
But the Oklahoma bill wants to make the entire state a sanctuary city, and any federal law that infringes on gun rights, they want to not enforce or obey in the state of Oklahoma.
Wow. Problem with that?
The feds will not pay attention to it, and the state law enforcement officers won't enforce it.
Well, the other thing is, if Texas doesn't do the same thing, all of Texas will move into Oklahoma and it'll sink.
Oh, yeah. Sink right through the middle of the country.
It might just, it would be like a state of quicksand.
Let's get Hank Johnson on this and see if something's going to sink.
I was just about to say, we better put Hank Johnson on the case.
It'll lift Oklahoma will lift over and spill
and spill all the oil. Leave it up to Hank Johnson to probably come up with some ridiculous, what is that stuff? Quicksand theory.
Yeah. In case you get people unaware, Hank Johnson was questioning an admiral about a military base on Guam, and he wanted to add so many thousand people to this base.
Troops
to the base. People to the base. And Hank Johnson asked if there was any danger of Guam tipping over or capsizing.
Hank Johnson sat in the halls of Congress, looked at this admiral in the eye, and said, "Now, Admiral, I'm concerned that the island is going to tip over.
Or capsize.
Capsize. So what worries do you have that Guam is going to tip over?"
And the admiral kind of smiled like, this has got to be a joke.
Kudos to the admiral.
And he just kind of looked at him, and Hank wasn't smiling.
You could see it in the admiral's face that he wanted to laugh.
Oh, my God, yes. Because he started to smile, and he looked at the senator or the congressman and went, he's not smiling. He thinks this is a serious question.
He's being serious, and you could see it in the face of the admiral. And my goodness, that admiral, what training he had to be able to stop himself from laughing.
The fact that he thinks these islands just float around. I mean, I'm going to wait until Hawaii comes over to the Atlantic coast and go to Hawaii.
I'm going to wait till Hawaii floats a little closer because it'll be less of a flight.
Yeah, be an easier flight. Yeah. No doubt. I mean, if it's going to float around, maybe it'll float over the Atlantic one day.
Eventually,
jump off the coast. Go take a flight from Savannah.
I think there's a better possibility that California will break off and float over to Hawaii.
Well, I might push it. Yeah. I might help.
If you're visiting California this week, jump up and down really hard when you get to the beach. Let's try and accelerate this process.
You know how you used to blow your little sailboats when you played in the lake or the pool? We'll just blow. Let's swap California for Hawaii. Okay, well, maybe I should.
But if California breaks off, that's going to make for a whole bunch of new beachfront land in Arizona.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And then, but right, so maybe Hawaii will make its way around to the
and get a little closer,
Coast,
get an easier flight. Yeah,
and it'd be much easier for us.
Yeah, according to Hank Johnson, islands just float around the oceans.
So I hope somebody explained to him
that they're attached to the bottom of the.
They're actually
attached to the earth.
Oh man!
But anyway, so this is something that Missouri's was the best one because they said they want to have law enforcement be able to arrest federal officers. Yeah. This is just saying that they want to not obey any federal laws that violate the Constitution.
Right.
But they're not going to go after federal officers when they come into town and try and enforce these laws. But if this ever comes to court, I'd like to see it go to court and say, you guys have marijuana dispensaries in like 10 states, 20 states, all over the country, violating our Controlled Substance Act. No, and now I don't care if you smoke marijuana. If you want to smoke it, eat it in a brownie, suck a lollipop, whatever. I could care less.
Yep.
But the federal law is federal law. Either enforce it or get rid of it.
Or get rid of it. Get rid of it, which I've been calling to get rid of.
Trump said he would have signed a bill to decriminalize marijuana.
Look, I've been for it for a long time to decriminalize a lot of the drug crap, But yeah, I don't care if you do it. I'm not going to do it. I don't care if you do it.
Now, the immigration law, the sanctuary cities, sanctuary states for immigration, they're just ignoring federal law. And they do not assist federal officers.
And immigration is one of those powers spelt
out enumerated in the Constitution.
That
clear as day.
It's clear as day. And now you've got these Democrat states that just, we're just going to be sanctuary. Well, you know what? Okay, we'll have sanctuaries for the Second Amendment then.
Right.
Because the Second Amendment is even more clear than immigration law, which is spelled out in the Constitution.
It says, shall not be infringed. Maybe you need to get dictionaries for every one of the congressmen and senators up there in Washington.
They really should. This really shouldn't be that hard to understand. In the United States Constitution, it clearly says who has the power to set immigration law. But when it comes to the Second Amendment, it is clearly spelled out that no form of a government shall infringe on this Second Amendment, which means this Second Amendment is given to the people, not by government. So therefore, it cannot be taken away by the government. But yet, look what's happening every day.
Yes. But as more and more states jump on this, I hope there's enough states to where they get, 10, 15, 20, 25 states all going, we're Second Amendment sanctuary states. You cannot enforce any law we don't believe is constitutional.
Bypass red, go straight to blue, because you're not going to do that crap in our state.
Yeah, but that's going to have to go to court on all this stuff.
Eventually,
the drug laws, the immigration laws, the Second Amendment laws, they're going to have to go to court and decide, do the states have the powers to enforce constitutional restrictions? Which is what the Bill of Rights is. They are restrictions.
Which, like I said, and which is going to fall on the 10th Amendment, states' rights.
Right.
And we need to have this not just debate. We need to have
it. The case come up. It needs to be decided, and it needs to be done legally by what the Constitution says.
And there's no way that the court can overlook enumerated powers and overlook the 10th Amendment.
Imagine if you will.
The four liberals will, but.
You have to get a gun. You have to undergo a background check. You have to get checked out. You purchase your weapon. Imagine if you had to get a background check before you voted. Imagine the liberal heads exploding on that.
I'm for that.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm for having to take a test.
Well, they're talking about what is it? The new bill says you have to have 24 hours of gun education before you're allowed to get a permit to own a weapon in the United States. Imagine having to get 24 hours of civics classes before being able to vote.
Let's just go ahead and blow some more liberal minds.
Wait a second. Does that count your experience many months in the military?
Any kind of training, I would think, would count, but they probably won't count any of that. Make you start over with some new federally mandated training classes.
Yep.
You want to bet?
Yeah,
yeah. That's of course.
I don't know if they'll ever get that through, but it'll be interesting to see. Because people say, I have a right to vote. You do not.
Well, that's what I was going to touch on, Roger. When you break down, you really want to blow these liberals' minds and blow a Democrat's head. Go send them straight to their cry closet. We have a specifically spelled out right to own guns.
Yeah, clear as day.
You do not, anywhere in the Constitution, do you have a right to vote. You have a right to not be discriminated against when
If
you
there
go
is an
vote,
election, yes.
in your state. If there's
Right.
an election. But you do not have a federal Constitution right to vote. It does
Even though
not
people
exist.
think they do. My right to vote was violated.
Does not
you don't
exist.
have a right to vote.
You don't have a right. On the federal level, on the federal constitutional level, you do not have a right to vote. And if you don't believe me or Roger, go look up the Supreme Court of Gore versus Bush or Gore versus
Oh, is that when they
whatever.
decided there was no right to vote?
The Supreme Court upheld and even specified there is no right to vote in the Constitution.
That's right. No right to vote.
No
but
right
there's
to
a right to own a
but
gun.
there is a right to own a gun. There's
But
a right.
yet they're willing to put all these hoops and requirements and restrictions on gun ownership, even though it's clearly stated you shall not infringe.
Yeah, shall not be infringed. I mean, it can't be any clearer. Like I said, the most concise and clear.
And they're just trying to ask for ID
Bill of
laws
Rights.
on voting. Show who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will. Yeah, exactly.
Georgia just passed that.
Yeah, Georgia's doing a good. I will say this. I was calling for this after the election that what needs to happen is the states have got to start fixing their voting laws. And Georgia, man, they are ahead of the game.
Yep.
And they're
They just
already
passed the bill, didn't
yep.
they? Yep.
And Kemp is going to sign it. So
Now, in case you don't know, that means you have to have an ID to cast an absentee ballot.
An absentee ballot. And I heard a commercial today, Roger, saying that the Republicans are trying to get rid of mail-in ballots in Georgia. We don't have mail-in voting. And the commercial even said that it was a right to mail-in voting was a right. No. Mail-in voting is not a right. In fact, voting
is not a right.
But in the state of Georgia, we do not have mail-in vote. We have absentee balloting. There is a difference between mail-in voting and absentee.
They seem like they're very similar, though.
They're similar, but the biggest difference is a mail-in ballot is what Michigan did and Wisconsin, where they willy-nilly throw ballots to everybody on the registered list. California was sending people who moved to red states, they were sending them a ballot. So an absentee, you have to request a ballot, and you have to prove who you are. And then when you send it in, they have to verify your signature. And now they're going to have to verify an ID. That's absentee. A mail-in ballot is if you're on the rolls, you get a ballot, you fill it out, and you send it back.
If you happen to get 2 or 3 or 4,
And
just
you
send them all back.
That's what was happening. That's why I said when people were
Massive
complaining
voter
about
fraud.
fraud is they legalized fraud in these states. They went to their
Massive
courts
fraud.
and they allowed mail-in balloting, which was legalized fraud.
With no ID,
Nothing.
identification
if
whatsoever.
you were on the voting rolls, they sent you a ballot. There were people getting ballots and people getting numerous ballots, people who didn't live in the state getting a ballot, and you could mail that ballot
Dead people
back.
getting ballots?
I'm sure there was some of that going on.
Well, that goes on all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And that was passed by not their Congress, which
Right.
was wrong.
Right, which is wrong. And the states, it's very clear again in the Constitution, the state legislatures shall make or create election law. And David, you're 100% right. The legislatures didn't change the law. The Supreme Courts changed the law. The courts, not Supreme Courts, the courts in those states
Just decided without
just
letting it become law.
decided that okay, yeah, that's going to
We
be
need
law.
we need to fortify.
And
Secretary of State's
right, yeah,
We have to fortify Biden's position.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what the courts are saying. So Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the courts changed the laws and allowed voting boxes and drop boxes, which are illegal in Wisconsin. And the legislature has to change that. But the courts
they did it anyway.
And the
Yeah, see?
courts are not a legislative branch.
They're
they don't teach that
violating
anymore.
laws all over the place,
Yeah.
left and right. They don't care. Our politics has become ridiculously
Yeah.
third world.
Oh,
In fact, NYPD this week had a surge 411% in requests for retirement. And we're going to discuss that as soon as we get back. I am Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and you're listening to America's Web Radio.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Karuchak. Join me and my co-host, Dr. Hal Schertz, every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. and listen to the Doctor's Lounge, where you get a private insight into the conversations that doctors have amongst themselves. Join us Thursday, 8 a.m. every week.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
Obamacare is failing, but in order to get back on the right track with health policy, people need to be informed. ObamacareWatch.org is your resource to understand what's happening with this law and what you can do to stay active, stay informed, and make positive change happen. ObamacareWatch.org. Visit us now.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, we're back. Right before we left, we're talking about New York Police Department having retirement rates that were astronomical. A 411% increase this week. Now, if you can imagine, they're processing retirement applications as fast as they can. They're limiting them to so many per month because they can't process them fast enough to get all these guys out of their offices, out of their work. They want to retire. They have the years. They're willing to walk away. And you may wonder, why this huge exodus? Why? Because the politicians are not supporting the police department. The commanders are not supporting the police department. They're sending them out on the streets. They're standing up for all the groups that are fighting against them and disrespecting them and not obeying the law. So why should these officers want to stay in a city, in a state where they're not respected, where the community members don't care whether they do their job or not? They don't get the respect from the community people either. I mean, most people, when something happens, you call the police. Imagine you call the police and nobody's there. Oh, well, we're out of police officers right now. They all retired. You have to be your own first responder, as I've said 1,000 times before. Imagine calling somebody, you hear somebody banging around in your garage, you call the police and they said, oh, well, we don't have enough people to send somebody to you, so you're just going to have to wait. Just run away. That's what they say in a lot of liberal states. You have to run away from your house if someone tries to break in because they do not have castle doctrines. But anyway, this retirement is it's going so fast, they can only do so many per month. They only have the personnel to process so many of these per month. And right now they're moving at a huge rate. They're getting rid of police officers so fast because these guys don't want to work here. And what they're finding is that other communities are willing to pick them up, give them good jobs in a community where they're respected, where they are treated properly, as police officers should be. I mean, why not? These smaller communities can't afford to spend thousands and thousands of dollars training their officers as New York City does. Why not get an officer that's had all these thousands of dollars worth of training come to your community and bring all this knowledge and this experience and this training with them? Of course they're going to do that. And I think the police officers are realizing, you know what? There are greener pastures out there. There are other places to go. There are better places to work. I mean, New York City is an amazing place to go. It is fantastic. If you've never been, well, I would say go, but right now I think everything's closed anyway. You can't even walk around in Times Square, I think, right now, mask on or not. But it is an amazing city. It's full of amazing people. But when the police officer is not on duty, the crime rates skyrocket. It's unbelievable how many murders and shootings they've had just in this past year and a half. I think, on May 25th, that's when George Floyd died. The increase in retirements was 75%. It started the month he died. People were getting out of there because they were allowing these protesters or these burn, loot murderers to get out there, overturn police cars, burn stuff to the ground because they were getting no support from anybody. And they're getting retirements requests of like 100 a day, but they can only process 35 to 40 a day. And they do it by appointment. So they're making as many appointments as they have personnel for, but they're getting 3 times as many requests for retirements. So eventually New York City is going to be out of police officers. And the ones who are there are probably not going to want to respond to certain calls. Oh, there's rioting in the streets. Well, we don't respond to that because we don't want to have to accidentally shoot somebody. Because if we do, we're going to be blamed for it. Our superiors won't back us up. Our politicians won't back us up. They'll support the people who shoot at us, but they won't support anybody, the criminals who get in the way of things. So if you're in New York City, you might consider now might be a good time to move. Because are you going to be able to live in a city without police officers backing you up, without being there when you dial 911? I mean, it was bad enough before. They needed more police officers anyway, and now they're losing it at a ridiculous rate, and they're not being able to recruit new ones because they don't want to work under these circumstances. It's unbelievable. And another thing that makes the police officers frustrated is they have this revolving door on their justice system. There were people being arrested for gun crimes. I mean, possessing illegal firearms, robberies, and they're turning them back out in the streets within days. So they're not even keeping criminals in jail. What's the incentive to not commit crimes? It just seems like they're trying to destroy their own city from the inside. It's so frustrating. I know the police officers must just be, wringing their hands, shaking their heads, going, what can we do? We're trying to do the best job we can, and here we're not getting any support from anybody above us. They're just letting us, shake in the wind. We're being hung out to dry. And we'll see. And a lot of other cities, smaller cities and smaller communities, right now is a time where you should start recruiting police officers if you need them, because there's going to be plenty of people looking, and you need to advertise in places like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Atlanta, any big city that has turned its back on its police officers. Those are the places you need to advertise if you want to get top quality police officers with the very best training that was available.
Just advertise on America's Web Radio.
That's right. We could do that for you. Nationwide advertising. What is it? GM at americasradio.com.
America's Web Radio.
No, America's Web Radio. Oh, my God. I keep forgetting that. Okay. And if you have any comments for me, Roger at americaswebradio.com. That's americaswebradio.com. GM if you have advertising questions. Roger at America's Web Radio if you have gun questions or gun comments. So there you go. Get our little push in there. So basically, if you're living in a big city, you may find yourself without police officers. So even though now is probably the worst time in history, money-wise or selection-wise, to try and buy a weapon, if you've ever thought about it or you feel like you would like to be able to protect yourself, it may only get worse. Gun laws could be coming down the pike any day now that could make it extremely difficult for anybody to buy a weapon. And I'm curious to see if they pass these laws that require training, education, licensing fees, insurance, how many people are going to comply? How many people are going to step up and say, oh, yeah, I have guns. I'll register and start paying money right now. Yeah, I have a feeling non-compliance is going to be a huge factor. And who's going to enforce this? Are local law enforcement going to go around knocking on doors trying to collect guns? I doubt it. Most very local people are going to say, I live in that community. I can't afford to be the one who goes to my neighbor's house and tries to take his guns away, because he's the one who's going to back me up if I need help. He's not going to be the one who's going to leave me, flailing in the wind. He's going to be there to back me up, and I can't go to his house and take his guns away. Now, if they send federal officers in to try and do this in Missouri, they're going to get arrested. Other sanctuary states would have to decide whether they want to put teeth in their bills to stop federal violation of Second Amendment rights. But I don't know where it's going to come. But if you haven't bought a weapon yet, if you feel like you have any desire to, you might need to act now. I usually tell you to wait until things calm down a little bit, but it doesn't look like things are calming down anytime soon. The prices on the guns have escalated some, but they're holding stable. Ammunition is the big deal. Ammunition is getting harder and harder to find. It's getting more and more expensive. But manufacturers are running at full production right now, from what I've seen. The manufacturers have made videos where they're stating they're running all 3 shifts if they can find enough people to work them. They're running ammunition 24/7. So hopefully they'll fill back up the pipeline and things will become more available. And I ask anybody who does shoot, if you only need 5 boxes, then buy 6 or 7. Don't buy 20. Hold off and give other people a chance to buy some. Make sure your neighbors have some. If you see some and you know your neighbors need some, pick up extra for them. Help support your communities, because the best way to police your community is to be there, have your eyes open, your ears open, and work with the local police departments in protecting your own neighborhoods. Because if you call them and they're not there, your neighbors are going to be the closest ones to you. Have a network set up where you could call for help if you needed it, if the police couldn't get there in time.
The other thing I'd like to throw out is that we've always kidded about or talked about this house protected by S&W or this house.
Right.
The last thing you need to do is let anybody know that you have weapons.
Right, because the way things are going now, they could red flag you if you get mad at your lawnmower and kick it. They could call the police saying, "Oh, he's very angry. He needs to have his guns taken away." Yeah.
And or it's assigned to people that don't mind breaking into your house and taking.
Right, exactly. Don't let them know there's something to steal there. And if you do have a gun in your house or several guns, lock them up. I mean, except for the ones you're using daily, I would say lock stuff up just to protect yourself or make sure your house is secure. Because right now with less police on duty, less police responding to calls, the chance of something happening and them responding to an alarm call are going to be way slower, way less than it would have been a year ago. Because there's less police officers out there now. It's up to you to defend yourself, your family, and your property. So if you need a weapon, go out there and buy one. Get some training. There are hundreds of classes in almost any city where you can learn basic handgun, basic carbine skills. And if you decide you like it and want to get more into it, take the advanced classes. You will end up looking like John Wick in a matter of months if you take the proper classes. I mean, he didn't know how to do all that stuff before he learned. Everybody learns somehow. So learn how to use your weapon properly. Learn how to use it instinctually. You should know how to function check. You should know how to reload a magazine quickly, easily, without hesitation after enough training. And then you have to maintain it too. Every month or 2 months or 3 months, go to the range, practice your skills, stay up on it. Because you know what? Crime never sleeps. You're always going to have criminals who are going to try and take advantage of people who cannot defend themselves. And if you have neighbors who can't defend themselves, it depends on how they feel. If you have a big liberal neighbor who hates guns, yeah, I wouldn't mention anything to him. Just say, yeah, we call the police if anything happens. That's what you should do too. In fact, here, I got this sign for you that says no guns in this house. You should put this in your front yard to make sure everyone knows your position. So that, of course, would be an attractive sign for a burglar to see. No guns in this house. Well, no one's going to shoot me there. Let me go break into that house. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. The federal laws may be coming within they're saying by next week they may start voting on gun control legislation. I don't have time to get into all of it. That's going to go down now, but maybe next week we'll see if it actually comes to fruition. But if they do this, gun prices are going to only go up higher than they are now. Ammo prices will be ridiculously high and get extremely scarce. So if you had any interest in purchasing a weapon, I'd say do it now. Because if you wait, it may or may not be too late.
Would you recommend a person possibly buying a target pistol, i.e. a .22 type pistol?
Yeah.
And then have a 9mm or something like that for a real pistol?
A lot of pistols are available in .22 form. Like a lot of the full-size pistols are available in .22 form just for that sake, to practice with .22s. And it gives you the feel of the same handgun. Like you can buy a 1911 in a .22. You can buy a Beretta 92 in a .22. You can buy a Glock in a .22. All to give you the training with cheaper ammo to be able to use your full-size handgun. If you get them comparable like that, it would be a very good idea for training purposes. But I also recommend having a rifle and a pistol. Because, one of the trainers I had was a Marine Special Ops trainer, and he said, you use your pistol to fight your way to your rifle. Because your rifle is your lifeline. That's where you really can make a difference. So we'll have to see. But if you have one, buy another one. If you don't have one, by all means get one if you have any inclination. All right, go out there, have fun, buy more weapons, buy more ammo. Shoot, practice, train. I am Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and you're listening to America's Web Radio.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Get your pen and